Now, world leaders are gathered in New York this week for the 73rd session of the United Nations General Assembly. A full session UNGA meeting was held Monday on global peace in honor of the 100th anniversary of Nelson Mandela's birth, also known as the Nelson Mandela Peace Summit. VOA's Paul Ndiho has more.
The highlight speaker during Tuesday's session of the United Nations General Assembly was U.S. President Donald Trump. He touted American economic growth and said his administration had accomplished more than almost any other administration in the history of the country. His comments drew an immediate reaction from members of the audience. On Iran, President Trump asked all nations to isolate Iran's leadership as long as its aggression continues.
Iran's leaders sow chaos, death, and destruction. They do not respect their neighbors or borders or the sovereign rights of nations. Instead, Iran's leaders plunder the nation's resources to enrich themselves and to spread mayhem across the Middle East and far beyond.
A statue of Nelson Mandela was unveiled at the UN on Monday. South Africa gifted the UN with a life-sized bronze statue of Mandela. Nations from around the world adopted a declaration recommitting to goals of building a peaceful, inclusive and fair society, and to revive the values for which Nelson Mandela stood by. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said his country is deeply humbled to have the father of their democracy honored permanently at the United Nations. Emphasizing human dignity, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the statue would serve as a reminder of the values.
Today, with human rights and the growing pressure around the world, we would be well served by reflecting on the example of this outstanding man. We need to face the forces that threaten us with the wisdom, the courage and fortitude that Nelson Mandela embodied.
Mandela's widow Gracia Machel told heads of state and UN officials to take on ego-driven decision-makers, political dogma, greed and the arms industry.
Do not let this be just another summit of statements. Bold, unprecedented action must follow.
The African Union declared 2014 to 2024 the Nelson Mandela Decade of Reconciliation in Africa. Nelson Mandela died 5 years ago. In 1994, he was elected South Africa's first black president. The UN also paid a tribute to former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan, who died on August 18th at age 80 after a short illness. Annan, a Ghanaian diplomat, served as the 17th Secretary General of the United Nations from January 1997 to December 2006. Annan and the United Nations were the co-recipients of the 2001 Nobel Peace Prize. Other highlights for Africa include heads of state addressing the United Nations for the first time, including South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa, Ethiopia's Abiy Ahmed, Liberia's George Weah, Sierra Leone's Julius Maada Bio, and Zimbabwe's Emerson Mnangagwa. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.